Hi, I'm Jasmine McCrawford, working at MKTG, and you're watching the Sports Biz Camps series.
My name is Patrick Stack, co-founder of Sports Biz Camps. So Sports Biz Camps is sports business 101 for high school students. And ultimately, our role is to help high school students that are passionate about sports better understand kind of a pathway to a fulfilling career in sports and doing something that they love and being around something they love. So without further ado, I did want to introduce our guest here for the speaker series, Jasmine McCrawford. Hello, Jasmine.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So Jasmine, I'm going to kick us off. For those of you that are new to the series, we're going to break our content into 4 quarters because this is sports, right? And then before you jump into the game, you got to do warm-ups. You got to get in some stretches. So in advance of that, Jasmine, kind of give us a little bit of background about yourself, kind of looking at your stats. So your hometown, your college, your undergrad major, and your favorite app. Now, not appetizers, but application on your phone.
Okay. My hometown, I am a native of New York City, the Bronx, New York, to be exact, home of the world-famous New York Yankees, but my college, I went to Temple University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. My undergraduate major was strategic communications with a concentration in public relations. Long way of saying I studied PR. My favorite application today still remains Instagram, and I am the hashtag queen.
Is there a favorite follow on Instagram?
Favorite follow, I like Bleacher Report. I like their content a lot. It's very funny, very topical, and keeps me up to date with sports and what's happening.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So I alluded to warm-ups. We're going to hit you with a couple kind of quick hitter questions.
Okay.
Get you comfortable, get some rapport here, right? Get a couple at-bats, and then we're going to jump into the 4 quarters, okay?
Right.
So give us the rundown on your New York team allegiances. You got a lot to pick from. Clearly, you're already going to Yankees.
Yes. So Yankees automatically. Football, we have the New York Giants, not to be confused with those other folks in green. Basketball, I am not a New York Knicks fan.
Okay.
Because they're terrible. So I am going across the country with the LA Lakers. And then hockey, I am a New York Rangers fan. So those are my top New York picks.
You had a great relationship against the Patriots. Obviously beat them in a couple of Super Bowls. Tom Brady has left the Patriots. Who's just more responsible for the Patriots dynasty, Bill Belichick or Tom Brady?
I personally have to give credit where credit is due and say that the Patriots are who they are because of Tom Brady. So if it's a Brady versus Belichick, Brady gets it hands down.
Awesome. All right. So keeping it New York relevant, who's more famous, A-Rod or J-Lo?
I go with my girl from the Bronx, J-Lo.
Okay. All right. And then I guess the last one is a little more challenging. So one sport you think is cool and you never played, but you'd like to play it.
I think that soccer is really cool. I don't know how my knees will hang on the field, but if I could score a goal, that would be like the highlight of my athletic ability.
You're already planning your goal celebration as opposed to actually playing the sport. I love that.
Yep.
All right, so thank you for jumping in. We want to kind of shift to the 4 quarters of the speaker series here. The first quarter is all about the early years. So our audience are high school students, and believe it or not, you were in high school at one point, just like I was in high school at one point. We were all in their shoes at some point. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about as you were younger, what was it that really built this relationship that you have with sports? Was it playing sports? Was it going to a sporting event? What was kind of the origin of that deep relationship with sports?
I kind of gravitated to sports from a lot of different capacities. My dad played high school football and still played football recreationally. My mom always liked watching sports, and they both made sure that I was really active. So I played basketball till I was 13. I was in tennis lessons. My mom would take a group of my friends growing up, and we would all hop on the bus or walk to Yankee Stadium for games like once a month throughout the season. So I have vivid memories of being in Yankee Stadium with my youngest friends. It was just being around it, being exposed to it. It was just something that I always loved.
So a lot of our students probably have favorite athletes and favorite teams, but even now probably more favorite athletes. Who was the one athlete that you looked up to that was like the GOAT for you when you were younger?
It's always sad to say, but my GOAT is and still is Kobe Bryant. He was Michael Jordan from my era. So Kobe was definitely like, when I was a little kid, like, oh, Kobe's it. And then more locally, it was Teresa Weatherspoon. She played for the New York Liberty. And so she was like a more tangible, like, I want to be her. I always wore number 11 jerseys when I was playing basketball. I would like, when I left basketball, 11 was like my number on everything. My locker number was 11. Those are my two like GOATs growing up.
Yeah, I mean, and how cool is that? I mean, the WNBA when we were younger was really still in its infancy. It didn't start till 1996 or so, and that's one of the reasons that it launched, right? Is because it gave someone like you a role model. Yeah.
So I was like their target demo. WNBA started in the like late 90s. I was just like a school age kid, like leaving elementary, going to middle school, and like Madison Square Garden was right down the street from my school. I could go to games. Like, I was a Girl Scout, so they were giving Girl Scouts tickets. You got badges for going to the games. My mom's coworker, he was like a photographer at the game, so I could go there and sit like on the floor. WNBA was everything to me when I was growing up. I got to see like, hey, there's a sport that cares about me. There's a sport where people look like me, and I wanted all parts of the action.
That is awesome. And once again, you know, for our audience, I mean, that's the power of sport, is it gives the people the opportunity to aspire, to model, and it gave you opportunity to think that you can not only play but also work in that kind of arena, which is absolutely awesome.
For sure, it was fun.
All right, great job answering those. First quarter done, crushed it. Well done. Kind of moving to the second quarter, which is really about growing up. So like that was the origin of your relationship with sports. Looking more kind of at your high school years, do you remember what you wanted to be when you grow up? And is it what you're currently doing?
When I was in high school, I wanted to be like everything. I wanted to be a psychiatrist at one point, at the beginning of high school, freshman year, sophomore year. Then like there was like a 2-month period where I wanted to be a lawyer. That I was like, nope, not me. But then by the time I graduated high school, so we're talking like end of junior year, beginning of senior year, I wanted to be an athletic trainer. My dad's a nurse, so he was like, hey, Jazz, getting into medicine is like the way to go. I knew I didn't want to be a nurse, but I wanted something that connected me to sports. So medicine, sports medicine it is, athletic training it is. And I applied to colleges looking for that major in mind. So.
And speaking of that transition from high school to college, where did you end up going and kind of what drove that decision, and did anything about that change?
Yeah. So going from high school to college, I was working like really closely with our athletic director and working in his office to understand his job. One of our assistant phys ed teachers was a former athletic trainer. So like, hey, what do I need to know? Whatever. So they both instructed me to find a school that specialized in my major or the major I wanted, which was athletic training at the time. So I did that. I found like the 8 best schools in the country that had sports medicine, kinesiology is what it was called, or athletic training. Well, I applied to my top 4. Once I heard back from my top 4, I stopped applying to the rest. And I made my decision for college based on them having my major and also them having a really good Division I sports program, so that I could like have some sort of association with a really solid program.
As you're transitioning from high school to college, which can be a challenging transition, how was it? Some things that you struggle with, how did you overcome that?
I intentionally went to a school where I didn't know anyone, but I had the same group of friends kind of traveling with me. So I wanted something different. And a lot of people look for that. Some people like being around the people they know, but some people want something different. And at first it was a little scary. I remember like the first week being on campus, and I was like in my dorm room and my roommate had like gone away, and I was like, I'm here by myself. Like, I don't know anyone. This is a big world, big campus, new city. And like, honestly, I like cried like a baby for the like couple hours. Called my mom, I was crying. Hey, I'm here by myself. After that, she's like, hey, this is a new challenge, a new opportunity, a new platform. Make the most of it. Like, you're there, you picked it. It'll be as great as you make it. And all that stuff was true. So I kind of like changed my perspective a little bit, started making friends. And I think in college, once you start making friends and making your friend circle, the experience becomes a lot easier to transition from like your old friends, high school, what that looked like, until what like your next 4 years are going to be.
How long did that transition from like, oh, I'm not enjoying this. This is hard. Versus like, this is awesome. Was that like a matter of a semester? Was it a matter of weeks? Just a pep talk from your mom?
It was a matter of like probably like a couple weeks, like 2 weeks ish. Like once organizations started forming and like you could join clubs and activities and intramural stuff and like all of these on campus activities. Like once those started, then I was good because I had something to focus on. I had a newfound like pool of friends and people that I knew and could like relate to. So once like that happened, classes started, I was like focusing on my syllabus and all that stuff. But once like the real college experience started, so clubs and school, I was good.
So that's your advice for any of our students that matriculate to college is get involved?
Yes, 100%. I enjoyed my college experience the most because of how involved I was. And shameless plug for Temple University, our alumni base is probably the tightest knit group that I've seen in New York, or at least on the East Coast, because we were all like interconnected in some way. So like your roommate was also so-and-so's lab partner, and their lab partner is also your teammate on intramural basketball. So it's like our world is super tight.
So it was like networking before you knew it was networking.
Networking before I knew what networking was. So yeah.
Speaking of networking, we're at halftime now. Great job. We're doing well. Stretch it out. We're shifting gears to talk about your professional career. So you work in an agency called MKTG. Would love if you would kind of introduce what that means, what you're currently doing, and then maybe go back to what was your entry point post-college into this industry?
Yeah, so what I'm currently doing is I help brands, so like a Pepsi or anything like that, I help them connect with their consumers, so the people that they want to buy their products or services through events. So if it's making sure adults that want to buy Pepsi are also football fans, we're showing up at the biggest football game in the world, which is the Super Bowl, and doing some really cool things, getting them to try really cool stuff. First entry point for me was understanding that kinesiology was not my strength. After taking like I think my first science class and like struggling through it, like really struggling through it, I just learned quickly like, hey, that's not my strength. So learning what my strengths were is like the best portion of career success. You don't want to force a round circle into a square peg. Like if your skill sets are doing one thing, find the way to make those skill sets your profession. In college, learn quickly that my skills were not in science, and I had great networking skills, which I didn't know was networking at the time. Great event planning skills, which I didn't realize was event planning at the time.
Oh, great to like figure out skills you didn't know existed that you have, and that's great.
Yeah. So once I did that, and like I started working at Temple's athletic department in college as an intern, and I didn't even know it was an intern. I was like, hey, I want to work the basketball games because I see people working in this little corner. Like, how do I be one of those people? So like asking the right questions, finding out how things worked and who does what. And then for 2 years, I was an intern for Temple University's marketing department, managing football, men and women's basketball, and then a few of our Olympic sports and non-revenue generating sports. And yeah, I did that for 2 years, junior, senior year of college. And then from there, I was graduating and I knew I needed a job. So my mentor was leaving her role in the athletic department. And I said, hey, I know her job is open. I know how she does her job. I've been following her for 2 years. Can that be my job? And I interviewed and we went through like a formal process, and that became my first job out of college, working at Temple University's athletic department.
Thank you so much for sharing. There's like a lot of really great takeaways for I think our students. Like you tested and learned, right? You thought you wanted to do one thing and you realized you didn't. No. You had skills that you didn't realize, like you didn't have a name for them, but you started to apply those skills.
Yeah.
You were curious and you got involved with the athletic department. And, for a lot of our students, whether they're in high school or when they go off to college, I mean, there's sports happening on their campuses. They can go get involved. You did it. You raised your hand. You were curious, learning more. And then you said, hey, I think I can do that job, and kind of put yourself in contention. So kudos to you for doing that.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like some of this stuff doesn't have a formal name while you're doing it. You don't even know how it's working, what's moving, who's doing what. Like for football analogy, if you are a wide receiver and you say, hey, I'm wide open, I'm in the end zone, I can catch this ball. I don't know if it's going to come my way, but I'm going to be in the position to do it. There will be that one pass that comes your way, and you're going to score your touchdown and win.
Awesome. So, one more question as we're in the third quarter. Has there ever been like a, oh my gosh, I can't believe I get to do this or get to work in this like area moment, like that you were at a sporting event or got to meet someone, and tell us about that?
So there have been 3 moments in my career.
Okay.
Beginning, middle, and current. So beginning, I think once I got the job that my mentor had, and it was like my first home game to like manage myself. It was a summer home game. It was nice. It was warm, all this stuff. And my role as like the marketing coordinator was to cue. So if you ever go to a football game or anything, there are people that manage like everything you see on the Jumbotron, every sound, every song that's played over the loudspeakers, everything. And so my job was to make sure that those people, I had a little walkie-talkie headset, and making sure that the people in the control booth knew exactly when the team was at the tunnel. And it was my job to tell the team when to run on the field. At the start of every home game, this is my very first home game, it was like, all right, Jazz, we're counting down, 10, 9, 8. So it's like 3, 2, 1 is like coming. I have a coach next to me and like an army of 6 foot, 400-pound men behind them, and I'm a strong 5'1". So at this count, I'm just like shaking and getting really nervous. But as the countdown comes, I hear the music play. I see our owl fly across the sky, and I say, "Go, go, go!" And I run up the way. And then like I just see this sea of like cherry and white like go alongside me, and that. Like every day, every game day, that for like the duration of my time there, that I was like in the tunnel, me and the coach, me and the guys, some of the guys, like there's a guy who ended up transferring to Temple from my high school. Like we would fist bump before the tunnel, like it was like an experience. And being in that tunnel, I was like, wow, this is my job. Like I control when they go on the field. Like this is cool. But yeah, that's being in the tunnel of any sporting arena has always been my favorite thing. So.
Yeah, like the vibe down there, it's almost like you're running out on the field yourself, and you get to be a part of that experience and see how it comes across to other people when they stand up and cheer for that. I love how you use the word cherry, not red, because I would have said Temple was red.
We're cherry and white for sure.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks for sharing. I can see the excitement. You're like ready to run out of the tunnel right now, sharing it.
I know the fight song, everything. It's ready. I'm ready.
Well, we don't have time for you to sing it today, but on the next episode of the speaker series with Jasmine, we can do that.
T for Temple U. Got it.
All right, we're shifting in the fourth quarter. It's crunch time. We call the fourth quarter Monday morning quarterback, which means kind of, having all the information that you currently have, would you go back and change anything? So looking back at and talking to our students who are in high school, what do you wish you would have known then that you know now about a career in this industry?
Like, I wish I would have known all of this stuff earlier. And I think it's so great that the students watching this, you guys, get to take these nuggets of information as high schoolers. Like, there's stuff, if you would have just told me stuff as a junior in college, I would have been appreciative. Like, some stuff I had to figure out along the way. So the biggest thing I would encourage is for you guys to seek out information as early as possible. It's never too early to start asking questions and asking people, hey, what do you do? How did you get there? And listening to their journey and taking those nuggets and applying them to your life. Because if it's me and saying like, hey, I have a high school athletic director that manages the basketball team, the baseball team, the football team, and just talking with your athletic director and saying, hey, can I shadow you for a couple weeks? For me, it ended up shadowing for a couple of days, ended up becoming like a 2-year job. Like I got paid $8 an hour in high school to like file papers and submit rosters. But I just learned how the business worked. In college, like finding an internship early, because freshman year, you're still having fun. You're figuring it all out. I didn't get my first internship until I was a junior, but knowing that there were people like with a year or 2 years ahead of me in internship experience was valuable. So after you have some fun and figure out the lay of the land your freshman year, find an internship that takes like 5 hours a week. It's something you can add to your resume. And then even like looking for opportunities after college and finding your jobs, work with the connections that you have existing. The easiest way to get a job is through someone you know, and someone that's willing to vouch for your work ethic and your creativity and your commitment. So those are like the 3 nuggets I think you should kind of hold on to from high school and looking into college.
Yeah, so it kind of comes back to networking, as you talk about at the end, right? Like it's meeting people, being curious, learning from them, offering to assist, and you never know where that's going to go if you do a good job.
Yeah, my personal tagline is I lead the league in assists. So whether I'm a 13-year-old retired basketball player, that is not my life anymore. But I love being able to connect folks and say, hey, you need a red cup holder. I know the perfect red cup holder. Here you go. So
that's awesome.
Lead the league in assists.
Well, and clearly you're following through on that as you're joining us on this speaker series. So thank you so much and for sharing. We're getting ready to the end. So we're in OT now.
Overtime.
This is a Hail Mary advice. So you've got one last chance to make a great impression on our students, asking for the best piece of advice you've gotten that you'd like to share with them as kind of the last thing you get to say to them.
So my best piece of advice for you guys, don't be afraid to raise your hand. That's the biggest thing that has given me success. Just because like your friends may not want to do something, or no one else thinks it's cool or valuable, or hey, they don't understand it, and you find value in it. If it's like, hey, let me learn about fencing or whatever it might be, or someone needs support or with something like that, not being afraid to raise your hand, because you being the one that does and kind of commits to something against the grain might be what stands you out in the long run, or will even if it doesn't, it'll expose you to something that you didn't know about before. Raising your hand, trying something new, and being willing to say yes to new things, for sure.
Jasmine, thank you so much for your time today. I think kind of my closing would be for all of our students, when you get through high school, get through college, get into your career, give back in the same way that Jasmine is today. There's a lot of ways that you can help someone, and clearly someone helped Jasmine, and she's trying to help you guys today with her time. So Jasmine, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. So for those of you that enjoy this, we're going to be uploading additional videos on YouTube at youtube.com/Sports Biz Camps. If you have any interest in connecting with Jasmine, you could always at us on social at Sports Biz Camps, and we could connect you with Jasmine. More information to follow. Really excited about having amazing people like Jasmine on this platform to be able to share their experiences and be a part of the speaker series. And really appreciate you all tuning in. We'll also be creating some quizzes for you and your teachers to be able to. So just so you know that, Jasmine, you're going to be part of a quiz on what they learned here today. But thank you so much. More information to follow and additional content from Sports Biz Camps. All my best, Jasmine. Take care.
Bye.